The conference with the apostles of John the Baptist. Since John the Baptist was in prison, he had little influence over his followers. After a visit from Abner, the former leader of the Nazarenes, John decided to follow the example of Jesus and appointed 12 apostles from among his most faithful disciples. Abner was the first and was also given leadership over this group. Now these apostles of John the Baptist had contacted the apostles of Jesus with the intent to merge the two movements. Jesus, knowing that the work of John the Baptist was a spiritual preparation for his message, had no objections to this. However, he left the decision entirely to his own apostles. To resolve theological and practical differences, both groups of apostles decided to hold a conference. This memorable conference took place in the temporary camp on the slopes of Mount Gilboa and lasted for 3 full weeks. Jesus was present only during the first week. For 3 weeks, these 24 men met 3 times a day, 6 days a week. Jesus did not participate in these meetings, but during the first week, he mingled with them between the sessions. Initially, both groups of apostles wanted Jesus to act as chairman, but he firmly refused. He did not participate in their discussions, although on 3 occasions he agreed to speak to them. These speeches by Jesus to the 24 were about sympathy, cooperation, and tolerance. Andrew and Abner alternated as chairmen. To come closer together, these men had to resolve challenging issues. Repeatedly, they wanted to present their problems to Jesus, but he refused to cooperate with this religious structuring. He responded each time, "I am only concerned with your personal religious problems. I am the representative of the Father to the individual, not to the group. If you have personal difficulties in your relationship with God, come to me and I will listen and advise you on solving your problem. But when you are dealing with the coordination of diverse human interpretations of religious matters and the socialization of religion, you must learn to resolve such problems through your own decisions. In a short time, I will no longer be among you, and you will need to act decisively. I am always interested, and when you reach harmonious decisions, I promise in advance that I will fully endorse and support them. I am leaving now for 2 weeks to give you the freedom to deliberate. Do not worry about me. I will be occupied with my Father's business." After these words, Jesus took them into the mountains, and for 2 full weeks, they did not see him. They never learned where he had gone or what he had done. The 24 had to come to a consensus without Jesus' help. The first point on which the group reached agreement was adopting the Our Father prayer, which Jesus had recently taught them. They unanimously decided to accept this prayer as the one to be taught to believers by both groups of apostles. Next, it was decided that as long as John was alive, whether in prison or outside, both groups of 12 apostles would continue their own work and meet every 3 months for conferences. The biggest stumbling block they faced was the issue of baptism. For the apostles of Jesus, this was uncharted territory since the Master had never spoken on the subject. Finally, they agreed that as long as John was alive, or until they jointly revised this decision, John's apostles would baptize believers. And Jesus' apostles would welcome and teach the new believers. As a result, from this point until John's death, combined groups from both movements went out to work among the people. The apostles of Jesus were accompanied by John's apostles who were tasked with baptizing the new believers because the joint meeting had unanimously decided that baptism was an important foundation for building their religion. They all realized that providing a tangible reminder could help new believers stay focused on the kingdom in later times and that it would give new believers access to the group of older believers. Then they agreed that in case John died, his apostles would join Jesus and place themselves under his leadership and that they would no longer baptize unless authorized by Jesus. It was then decided by vote that in the event of John's death, the apostles of Jesus could begin their interpretation of baptism. The meaning of the baptism by Jesus' apostles would then be a sign of citizenship in the heavenly kingdom. John's apostles preached, "Repent and be baptized." Jesus' apostles proclaimed, "Believe and be baptized." Many other less important matters were discussed, and the solutions to these smaller problems were unanimously accepted. These 24 men went through a significant learning curve in these 2 weeks as they were forced to face problems and resolve difficulties without Jesus or John the Baptist. They learned to have differences of opinion, debate, argue, pray, and compromise, and throughout it all, they remained understanding of each other's viewpoints. After 2 weeks, Jesus returned. He listened to the report of their discussions, heard what they had decided, and said, "Now that you have reached these conclusions together, I will help each of you implement these collective spiritual decisions so that they can become reality in the material world." 10 weeks after this conference, John was executed. During this entire interim period, John's apostles stayed with Jesus and the 12. They worked together in the cities of the Decapolis. They worked fraternally and baptized new believers.